Cameron que se duerme se lo leva le corriente. And welcome to Shift F1, a podcast about speedy race cars. That is, of course, Spanish for a shrimp that falls asleep is taken away by the current, which basically translates to pay attention or the opportunities will pass you by. There were plenty of opportunities for passing in Barcelona this past weekend, and we're going to talk about a lot of them. I'm Danny O'Dwyer, joined as ever by Drew Scanlon. How you doing, Drew?
Hello, I'm good. Amber is the color of my energy.
Whoa, what's that mean?
It's episode 311. Just celebrating.
Okay, there we go. My knowledge of 311 songs is zero. Rob,
mine is 1. So
okay, Rob, you got one? Can you throw it in here?
God no.
He's pleading the fifth. He's not even going to try. I love it. Drew, I prepared the quote this week because
thank
you've come in pretty hot this week. You've just arrived back from Europe, right?
That's right. I'm fresh off a plane from Rotterdam. TwitchCon was this weekend, and I was over there supporting all of our fine shows. Ran into some giant bomb folks. No one,
Hell yeah.
no Shift F1 fans assassinated me, which is great. It was a fun time, but I did not have. I did watch the race and qualifying, but did not have enough time to prepare all of my copious notes. So thank you for holding it down this week.
Well, don't thank me yet. We'll see how good the notes are once we get to the play-by-play.
But yeah, if you are new to this podcast, a very warm welcome to you. And if you are new to Formula One itself, we recommend listening to our preseason primer episode, which assumes no prior F1 knowledge and explains how the sport works and who everybody is. So if you would like to go back and listen to that, it's episode 298. Also, this show would not be possible without our audience over at patreon.com/shiftf1, where every month we release ad-free versions of the podcast early for those patrons, along with bonus podcasts and videos that are exclusively for the patrons that cover racing documentaries and films, F1 video games, experiments with other racing series, and a lot of weird things. So if you would like to support the show and get access to all that fun stuff, head over to patreon.com/shiftf1 or click the link in the show notes. What do we have going on over on Patreon, Danny?
Ronan will be going up this week. We had some scheduling shenanigans, so that'll be going up later this week. And then we have to pick what the next one's going to be.
I think I know what the next one's going to be, Danny. A little film called F1: the movie.
F1: Whose colon's it about?
I think it's Brad Pitt's.
Well, but that'd be a pretty good colon.
He's
It
old
would be the
enough.
worst colon. What driver on the grid right now would have the worst colon to be in for an entire movie for 90 minutes? Let me think. All right, answers on a postcard, everyone. I'm looking forward to that.
It's got to be Alonso, though.
You think so? Yeah, it's just from pure wear and tear.
Age.
Yeah,
It's
seen a lot of traffic.
Maybe you can say like the Mediterranean diet and all that. Like he seems like a really healthy guy, but like they're all really healthy guys. He's the eldest.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Probably has more examinations.
that's true.
Oh, they're scoping him for sure.
Yeah. Hey, if you're listening right now, get yours checked out. That's your
right.
Shift F1 Health Minute. This week's episode brought to you by Kaiser Permanente. It's definitely not. But thanks to all of our incredible patrons who have fantastic colons, I think, including our amazing title sponsors who have the cleanest colons in the world. The Chicken Finger Pita.
Oh.
Matt and Harmony, Deange, It's a Me Ferrario, Get Rich Odai Ryan, Agave ATX, Cyphus Training, Turf SCS, Kikaha of the Art peeks in and says Neum. Thank you, Kikaha of the Art. At Team Blackjack, Michael Maves, Bring Back Cigarettes, Olivia Evans, telemetrydeck.com, FTC, True Stewart, Bailey Foot, Jason Chadwick, Abraham Getchell, Buddy Meme, Snigs, Alex Goucher, Max Faltar, Jeff Foster, Troy Stammer, William Rumpf, Lachlan the Madden Man, Oppressive Petro States, Samurai Love Story, and Jason Kelly.
So glad
Thank
they're
you all
sponsoring.
so much. Yeah, it's funny. The longer this goes on, the more our title sponsorship looks like real world F1. You know, maybe from like the late 90s.
Yeah.
It's a good time.
The glory days, yes, of cigarettes.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it. Oppressive Petro States. Just in general, they all got together. They all did it like a round robin and kicked in. So appreciate it.
Shift F1 Wealth Fund.
Yes, exactly.
All right. Well, should we take it to the grid of Spain, Danny?
Let's
You running down the grid here?
Okay, I'll do it. That's what I was doing. That's why I'm loading it up on my screen right now. You go first to last usually?
I go first to last, yeah.
You do, yeah. Well, in first was Oscar Piastri with a blistering lap. He was 2/10 up on next Lando Norris, his teammate. Max Verstappen peaked in at the end of Q3 to grab third back. It was a real a frenetic last crossing over the line, as you'd suspect. George Russell came in fourth with Lewis Hamilton next on row 3 with a pretty solid lap, out qualifying Leclerc for it seems like the first time in a little while. Kimi Antonelli not far off his pace in 6th, Leclerc in 7th, Pierre Gasly in 8th. Isaac Hadjar had another solid qualifying, ending up in 9th. Fernando Alonso rounding out the top 10. Then we had Alexander Albon in 11th. Gabriel Bortoleto with a decent drive for 12th. Liam Lawson in 13th. Lance Stroll in 14th. He wasn't a happy bunny this weekend for a couple of reasons. Ollie Behrman. I have Ollie Behrman here in 14th as well. Do you know what that's about?
Is it on the F1 page?
Yes, it is. The starting grid. They both have 14th for some reason.
That's weird.
That might be a bit weird. I'm going to just say he's 15th. Nico Hulkenberg in 16th. Esteban Ocon behind him. Carlos Sainz had a rotten qualifying. Couldn't get out of Q1. He starts third from the back. Franco Colapinto behind him. And then the person who had the worst qualification of the bunch, Yuki Tsunoda. I think he ended up doing something to the car that pushed him to the back. But he failed to get out of Q1 as well himself after a torrid display in quali.
Sorry. I think the F1 page is confused because Lance Stroll did not start the Grand Prix.
Yes. So they just didn't know what to do with him.
Right.
They were like, 14th sounds about right.
Maybe he qualified in 14th. He did. He qualified in 14th, and Behrman qualified 15th.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, Lance Stroll out with... I saw an article that said pain from when he broke his wrist in 2023.
Okay.
But
not him punching a wall.
Yeah, do we want to talk about that right now, Rob? We're kind of cannibalizing one of our only news stories.
No, we might as well. So yeah, there is apparently a paddock rumor that he lost his temper after quali and punched a hard surface, and then that is what fucked up his wrist and re-aggravated it. Now, Aston's position is that he's been dealing with lingering wrist issues for several weeks now, and so this isn't a huge surprise that just finally sort of rose to a critical point this week. For me personally, when they said his injury was re-aggravated, my thought immediately did go, just with the timing, that he might have punched something. I think we've seen this with him before. He's lost his shit after bad qualifying performances. Lots of drivers have, but I think we've literally seen him. Is he the one who shoved his physio at one point, was really pissy about a bad quali? So the thought had occurred to me when he wasn't going to be racing on Sunday that maybe he'd actually fucked up his wrist. Now the thing is, these things I could easily believe that you have a progressively worsening chronic issue with your wrists, but I just don't know that I totally would have bought that. In that qualifying session, it rose to an acute point, and he needs to immediately, and not just that, but I think they said he's headed for surgery this, which does make it feel like it is acute for whatever reason.
Danny, I do have the answer to your question about Leclerc versus Hamilton in qualifying. Hamilton has only out-qualified Leclerc twice here in Spain and in the China race.
Okay.
He qualified 5th and Leclerc 6th in China.
So always close.
Yep. Yep. All right. Did we run down everybody? Yeah, on the grid? Okay.
I think so.
Yes. Cool. Well, then it's time to take it to the start, Danny.
Well, I guess I'll do the start and then the rest of the race, Drew Scanlon.
Thanks for shouldering this burden.
No worries. No, you do it every week. So yeah, lights out. Great start from Piastri. And Norris has a little bit of a not as good a start and kind of starts getting gobbled up by everyone. He ends up managing to hold off everyone except Max Verstappen, who goes around the outside of turn 1 into P2. Kimi Antonelli has an off. There's a few here who sort of bump on the way into turn 1 and turn 2. And they take that little escape road on the outside of turn 2, which we'll get to know very well over the course of this race. Antonelli bumps off. Hamilton gets up into 4th. Then Lawson ends up going out there as well. I'm not sure if this is the first time he had a little bit of contact with Albon or not, but he ends up also heading down that escape road. Leclerc gets past Russell down into turn, is it 6? It's that slow little right-hander around there. Was there? I think there was a move with Alonso and Hadjar as well around there. In that it was an action-packed. Alonso and Hadjar was. They did a replay of that. There was a great little battle between the two of them. He was. I think Hadjar might have nipped past Alonso just there. I forget exactly which order that happened in, but yeah, nice little action-packed opening lap. We especially after Monaco, it's nice to have a lot of stuff going on there. You
Love
guys
to
have
see
any?
Hadjar mixing it up with world champions.
That's the thing. I think that he's had a great quali, and then he's up there. Like, we'll see it over the course of this race. Isaac Hadjar has become the sort of the he might end up being rookie of the year at the end of this, but it's just the fact that he's so quiet, and then he ends up being a bit of a killer on the track. Super confident, which is great to see. By lap 2, Hülkenberg is up 5 places into 10th as well, which is pretty remarkable. Hülkenberg then has a bit of a dive on Alonso as well in that spot. So Alonso's kind of moving backwards at this stage and not having much fun with it.
They kind of trade places, little back and forth action. That was cool to see.
Yeah, and then it kind of settles in for a bit. This is kind of where you felt like, okay, this is going to end up being more of a strategy or a how many pits are people going to go for at this stage. Lando gets past Verstappen on turn 1 here after sort of slowly eating him up lap by lap. He manages to get past him again into P2, or get past him to get the position back at this stage. What did you make of this opening, I guess, Rob, at this stage? Did you have any thoughts on kind of where people were shaking out, where the battle was going to be? Norris was going to had a bit of, I guess, track to eat up on Piastri by the time we got to this stage.
Yeah, I mean, it was like shaping up to be very much sort of a pace control race. I think the thing that caught me was like just the various bits of damage that had occurred early in the race that sort of put people on early pit stop strategies. But yeah, it was like, I think my initial reaction was mostly, was Norris like falling away from the race, or was he pacing himself, was the big question, because it appeared to be sort of a 2-horse race, but it's so tricky to tell in this era what is tire management and what is pace just not being there.
Tire management was a problem Fernando Alonso was having a lap later on 14. He locks up going into that left-hander again in sector 2, just flies out into the gravel, not having a fantastic time. We start to have pit stops around lap 20, 21 here. So Norris boxes for medium. They say to him, no undercut. 8 laps newer than Verstappen. So the message from McLaren is very much, you are racing Max at this stage. Which probably suits them as well, to be honest.
Yeah, and he had pitted, it looks like, on lap 13. So everyone's like, right. 3 stop?
Yeah, exactly. Piastri then, about 2 laps later, is, as said, this was not a McLaren undercut situation. I don't think the time was there either, but he goes on to mediums, I believe, from softs. So it feels very much like this was the point in the race where I was like, oh shit, this is a tire race. It's always really hard to do the notes for these ones. I wish Drew was around this weekend. That's where my head was at this stage.
Just to call out racefans.net, they not only have a good lap chart article after every race, but they also break down the tire strategies, so you can see when everybody pitted in a nice visual way. And you can see here that Hülkenberg also pitted very early at lap 9,
Yes.
which may come back to help later.
So this is the moment where we have the Lawson Albon situation. So lap 24, they come into contact with each other, let's say, and then 25 Lawson and Albon are having a bit of fighting on 24, and 25 is when they come into contact. Similar sort of lunge, they tap. And then at the end of this, about 3 laps later, I think it is, Albon is given a 10-second time penalty. He eventually retires a lap later, but he comes in and they tell him to serve the penalty in the box and then go out again, just as a procedural, make sure you get your penalties sorted during this race so you don't carry it on to the next race, which is always very funny. Albon had been sort of nursing a front wing damage since the first lap, which I also think was an Albon
A Lawson
contact.
Yeah, I think so.
But so he eventually ends up coming into the pits on lap 29. So what did you guys make of this? So he ends up getting the 10-second time penalty. It was for not handing the place back or gaining an advantage by going off the track, I guess.
If I remember right, it was a pretty bold dive that was not, I think, as Nico Rosberg, co-commentator for Sky F1 this weekend, said, that was not on.
That wasn't on. Very good. All this hanging out with English people has been rubbing off on him, I guess, at this stage.
Yeah, it did not look like a move that we would come to expect from Albon.
Well,
and he got a penalty for it.
And maybe it rubbed off on Lawson because he does something very similar a couple of laps later to Ollie Berman into turn 1. He dives down the inside and knocks Berman out onto the escape road there as well. Berman comes out ahead of Lawson on that one. So Lawson's out there. He's qualified ahead of Tsunoda, and now he's on the tear in Spain and getting it done. The next note I have here is somebody saying Plan B, which I think was that Max? I forget. Shit, I should have written down who this was. We should wait. Do you guys remember who said that over comms?
No.
Okay, well, it's a mystery now to all of us.
Well, this whole stage of the race, like for me, my notes get pretty spotty here in the middle because it becomes very much just a pure strategy race. As you're like in that middle stint, it felt like kind of you're just watching these strategies play out.
Max, sorry.
No, it's okay.
Verstappen pits on 48, his third, and comes out ahead of Tsunoda and Ocon, or rather comes out behind Tsunoda, and then Tsunoda gets out of his way, lets him pass immediately, and holds up Ocon there. Norris pits onto softs here on lap 49, basically to attempts to maintain track position on Max regarding his cut. Max not happy with the ride at this stage. He's kind of, I feel like maybe the performance of the car is sort of, on new tires isn't feeling good for him. It's going to feel a lot worse later on, though. A sign of things to come. Lap 52, I have Norris behind Lawson and Behrman. So this was the sort of the blue flag Mageddon that we had here. So Lawson and Behrman, who had already come into contact a couple of laps earlier on turn 1, they are fighting for position while Norris and Verstappen are coming through the field. So they get down to turn 1 and Lawson basically kind of doesn't... he decides to go up the inside again of Behrman. I'm not sure if this is a situation where he doesn't see Norris or he's sort of taking advantage of the fact that if he gets ahead of Behrman here and there's a back marker, that maybe he can, in the sort of the mix of all this, keep the position. As it happens, it was a pretty great overtake, I think. Behrman ends up taking the escape road. Then Norris is basically coming through the field between both of them. Lawson backs off, lets Norris pass. Behrman then is sort of in no man's land. He's sort of giving a tow to the two of them. Lawson filters in behind Verstappen, and then eventually both of them get past Behrman. But they're not particularly happy about it. Verstappen, on the exit of that, I think it's turn 7 into sector 2, gives a sort of waves unapologetically at Lawson to be like, what were you guys doing? Which is funny because it was to his advantage more than it was Norris's, but he obviously wasn't particularly happy about it. What did you guys make of all that?
I think it's always fun when, blue flags happen when the back markers are fighting each other, because then it's like you have to obey the rules, but you also have to not let the guy behind you pass, and it's just a really tricky thing to try to do. And it's not only that, but it's Norris and Verstappen are coming up on the back markers and they are fighting. So I think that injected a little more excitement into this race.
I remember who said that thing earlier. It was Hadjar, and the reason why I went back and added that is because of what happens next. So this was a great example of Hadjar not just racing the car well and fighting, doing well in quali and then fighting people like Alonso. This is also a good example of him sort of making calls on the comms. So whatever plan B, we should wait. I'm pretty sure that was him sort of making a call. And then something similar happens when the safety car comes out. So Kimi Antonelli bins it. He goes out into the
he had
the
a
gravel.
Failure, right?
Yeah, was it
The
engine
engine
failure?
failure. It just turns off. It was just a full shutdown as he was approaching a corner, and he just piloted it out into the gravel.
Yeah, apologies. I didn't mean to say that he binned it. I should have picked my words better. His car just full shuts off before it even leaves the racetrack, and he ends out there in the gravel. So full safety car for this one. Piastri comes in immediately. Hadjar is told to stay out here, but then he says, "Why don't we box for new softs?" And then they're like, "Okay, box." So another great call, or at least him being assertive, if nothing else. Which is pretty cool to see. Piastri and Norris do a double pit here. Max comes in as well for his only fresh set of tires, which are a pair of hards. Hadjar comes on.
He's like,
sorry,
what is this tire?
Yes,
that was so
the
funny.
radio.
The radio call after that, where he was like, "What tires are these? Why?" Just completely baffled, and he only had the hards left. Crucially, like the tire allocation they had this weekend, these are the hardest of the tires that they were running this weekend. So the hards were basically rocks, and they did not appear to be a race tire for sure. But that's sort of all he had access to, because they did not feel he could make it to the end on the scrubbed softs that I think he still had access to. I can't remember in the tire chart, was he on mediums when
He was
they brought
on
him
softs.
Okay, so that might have been
He would have had to stretch them way long. Although, let's see, I think the only one who did go to the end on their softs, Lawson Bortoletto, did not pit here and stayed on the race for softs.
and what probably didn't or would have helped Max in this situation is the fact that they ended up extending the safety car because it took them a while to realize that Bortoletto and them had to unlap themselves.
Right.
This was kind of an it was kind of a fumbled like safety car period, because I was surprised how long they were driving in formation with the back markers mixed in. The wave around took for an age to unfold. But this isn't the first time we've seen the safety car or a VSC like sort of go long, and it was the thing that made me question Red Bull's strategy here a little bit is I think when you have a safety car deployment like this, if you're concerned about I don't think that tire's going to make it to the end, you have to assume that you're going to have like 3-4 laps, maybe more, of yellow flag or safety car running. And I got to believe that changes what's happening with tire wear. I believe this is the second race, second or third race in a row where we've seen sort of these this sort of hand wringing about, well, that this was Ferrari, I think, telling Leclerc this, I think, a few weeks ago, but like the tire's not going to make it to the end, and it's like that's true if we were running in green, but I think in that race they only released 2 green flag running with 8 laps left. So here, to me, it was like, yes, the hards are going to be fresh, but it is just not the day for them. And he's going to be sitting, it's going to be like he's out there on bald tires regardless. So why not keep the track position?
It was definitely the worst case scenario for Red Bull's strategy. You could tell that the safety car was not what they wanted.
And it's where the tilt began, right?
Yes,
I feel like if you have to mark the moment that the rest of Verstappen's race comes into focus, it's that sort of bafflement over that radio call when he realizes they put him on the hards. And it's like, it's a bit, to me, my read on the rest of the race is almost like he disassociated from the car in a weird way. He had no feel for it, no connection.
Yeah.
And he begins not fully... We'll talk about the restart. I think he hallucinates something on the restart.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Go for it.
What do you
Jimmy.
mean? Oh, well,
yeah,
okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, let's I guess go through this sort of 4-lap sequence maybe, and then we can go back and adjudicate it. So, lap 60, the safety cars in. They all rush down the start-finish straight. Good start from Piastri. Max loses the rear of the car on the exit of the final turn leading up to the straight. Great save.
How he saves that.
Yeah, crazy
because he's an
save.
alien. Yeah, he's practically sideways.
Doesn't do well for him in terms of track position, though, because Leclerc basically eats up his breakfast as they get down into turn 1. And then Russell also tries it with a sort of a daring dive, shall we say, up the inside. Leclerc and Verstappen actually touch as they're going down the straight, which itself is a little bit of a weird thing because they're just going down the straight. And then when Russell dives down, he's trying to sort of slide in behind Leclerc. And there's a bit of... I don't know if there's contact between him and Verstappen at that stage, but Verstappen has to take the exit... the safety road, or whatever you want to call it, that little road they have if you're going off the track.
This is what you were talking about, Rob, when Leclerc and Verstappen touch.
Yeah,
He's like, Leclerc hit me.
He rammed me. And then when he does touch Russell, he's on the radio immediately again saying, like, he did it also. You can't do that. But to me, the tell is that he's rammed. Because you only ram someone from behind. I think he was convinced that Leclerc had, like, gotten into the back of him, and that's why he lost it over that curb. Because... He got squeezed a bit on the straight, but we know how drivers always say he didn't leave me room or something like that. You don't say he rammed me when you touch like wheel to side pod. That's not how you express that. Even like Max sometimes having the slightly awkward delivery of like someone who speaks English as a second language. We know how he talks in these situations. I think at that point he was convinced that the reason the car stepped on him so badly is that Leclerc had gotten into the back of him because he was already in his head by the fact that he got brake checked by Piastri on the restart and everything sort of accordion together. So I think he's still in that mode where it's like we're all stuck together, and then he loses control of the car, saves it, sees Leclerc go whipping past, squeezing him, and I think at that point the red curtain is beginning to descend. Like, that guy did that to me.
Interesting hypothesis. Yeah.
Sort of like Ocon or Grosjean in Baku when Magnussen hit us under safety car and he just lost it.
Yeah. In any case, I found it very strange that they touched on the way down the straight. That seemed like a little bit weird. That
do you think that was intentional, Rob? Because Leclerc is just driving straight.
Yeah, he's got the corner. He's not going to be able to. And Max turns into him basically.
A bit. They're both trying to plane off each other's approach to the corner a little bit, right? Like I think they're both. This reminds me a lot of. Oh God, was it at Baku last year? Last lap, was it Sainz and someone? But
Perez.
I think so. But yes, it was Sainz and Perez.
Yeah,
and it was a case where they were both driving mostly straight, but not quite. And they did converge, and you have that incident. I think it's a similar thing here where, it's a long drive down to that first corner, positioning's everything, and Leclerc wants to make sure that Max has no room to take control of that corner, but also he wants to get the draft as much as possible, and there is a bit of a... I don't know how it works in F1, but, in sports car racing, they talk about there is a side draft a little bit. There's still a pocket of air you tuck into the closer you pass someone on their side. So there's a bit of incentive to do that. But yeah, I don't think, to me, it doesn't look like any sort of egregious squeeze. But I think they really want that outside line heading into the first corner, and they touch a little bit. And I think at that point, Max is now starting to fully feel besieged. He's in a car that, is driving like shit. He's convinced that he got tagged. And then Russell dives on him. And here, my initial read on... Because, yes, Russell dives, but to me it looks like he has a pretty good shot at taking that corner. They touch.
You're talking about turn one or...
Turn one, yeah.
Okay.
Immediately after this Leclerc overtake.
Right.
Yeah. And this is where Max hits the escape road, right?
Yeah.
My initial read was he comes out so far ahead of Russell after that escape road that I was like, he left the track and gained an advantage. There's just there's no way you can... He gets out of that touch, hits the escape road, and now Russell, who was basically side by side with him in the corner, is well behind him. Rosberg's take on it was that actually it was a fair move from Max, that Russell didn't really have the corner. He was dive bombing it a little bit, that Max had a good claim to his position. Having seen it, I'm probably to me, it's 50-50. It looks like a racing incident, but Red Bull becomes convinced, GP becomes convinced, that they're not, that the stewards are going to do something.
I think this is the most boy who cries wolf situation imaginable, where I actually think that Max is hard done by on this one. I similarly think that Russell was dive bombing. Russell was doing the Max overtake is what happened here. Max was throwing it down the inside. The thing that Max has done over and over again, which is get ahead at the apex, and then the other person can go off the track. Max was a victim of that overtake this time, and it maybe says something about where Red Bull are right now, that they didn't fight it, because they fight everything usually, and for whatever reason, on this one they didn't. And I think that also. I think if Max feels like the car is against him, at this stage, I think he feels like the team is against him. Like he must be taking crazy pills, because why, in this situation where he feels like he's been forced off the track doing something that, that by the rules that have been brought in largely because of him, is supposed to be not allowed, that then he has to give the place back.
Well, and I think when Max is really rattled and gets defensive and accusatory like that on the radio, I think GP has a meter that fills up and he gets sick of it. We saw this at I think Hungaroring last year, right? Where eventually GP gets on the radio and basically shut the fuck up, you fucking child. Just focus on the race. He gets sick of it. And so I think at a certain point, Red Bull's looking at that incident, and they're kind of looking at it as he's driving like a child. He is not, he needs to get his head in the game. He screwed up that corner. He should give the position back. Now, here's the thing. I think you're probably right. He's hard done by it in particular because the stewards haven't made that call yet. And we saw how when Ferrari did the same thing with Leclerc, where they told him give that position back after what looked like some pretty hard but inbounds racing. It sucks to have your team not have your corner and actually say you should just concede the position because we think you've already screwed it up and you should just give up here. So when they tell him that, he starts to melt down on the radio a little bit, and now you pour on the fact that it's Russell following their completely falling out last year, and you have the recipe. We've now completed the recipe for a vintage Max Verstappen rage out.
And I think...
Sorry, Danny.
Yeah, the only other thing I want to say here as well is I think we often talk about how when teams are in the ascendancy or when they're up front that decision-making is easy. And decision-making is more difficult when you're fighting for every point, during the whole calendar. And I think this is a good example of that too, where I suspect Red Bull are thinking, look, if you get a penalty for this, you're going to get shuffled all the way back. You lose this position, all you're losing is World Championship points on this race weekend. It's not that big a deal, and that type of arithmetic and mentality does it shows a weakness that doesn't happen when you're the lead team and you can make bold claims because you have those margins, and Red Bull don't have those margins anymore. And especially with the constructors, but that's gone this year for sure. And then the drivers' championship, they are more and more becoming third fighting with the folks behind. So I think that also, it's just a good example over the years when we talk in this podcast about why was McLaren doing there? Or, why did Ferrari take that strategy? The margins are so much thinner back there, and it's interesting to see Red Bull there now having these types of moments because they are also fighting for every point that they can.
Yeah, good point. Before I think we get into
the thing you're holding on to,
yeah. Well, I just think before we get into the big event from this race, I think we should take a quick break. But we will be back with the conclusion of the Red Mist. All right, Danny.
Lap 64. So after the past few laps, GP's been telling Max to give the position back. They've been having a bunch of back and forth about it. GP says, my advice is let him through. Max complains about it. GP says, but that's the rules, was the word that came back, which I thought was very funny coming from GP. And they get back down into that turn again, that left-hander at the start of Sector 2. And Max comes off the gas. Russell overtakes him around the right. And as Russell goes to take the turn, Max gets back on the throttle and basically wheel-to-wheels crashes into the side of Russell's car. They tap tires, and then Russell... drives off into the distance. Both cars are fine, uninjured. The cars don't have any damage on them, it seems. Good thing that they tapped wheels. But yes, it was a clear incident of road rage, I guess, is the easiest way of putting it.
Rosberg on the call was immediately like, that's a black flag. He did that deliberately. And Crofty's like, well, we need to see it again. Rosberg says,
so obvious.
I don't need to. We can watch it again, but that was deliberate. Palmer over on the F1 team commentary also saw the exact same thing. Nobody who's driven these cars saw that as anything other than a deliberate, using the vehicle as a weapon.
I felt sick. When I saw it happen, my heart sank. It makes me feel ashamed of this sport when I see stuff like this. The last time I felt this was, under safety car conditions, but I still felt that they should have thrown the book at Sebastian Vettel when he crashed into Lewis in Baku. I remember I think any time this happens, the driver should be immediately black flagged, and I think they should get a race ban. I think this is
it is the only case I can remember where I can remember someone clearly deliberately initiating contact, and they didn't black flag in that case either.
No,
I think in part because this is a sport that cannot bring itself to red card a driver. Like they like fundamentally, there's such deference to the drivers that will do the points on the license, but we are not going to throw a black flag and say like you need to get your ass in the pits and out of the car. That should have probably been that. You're right. That should have been black flag. This should have been a black flag. They didn't do that.
It's wild. I don't know what it was so obvious what he did, and then when you look at the telemetry, you can see it obviously as well. But yeah, I think they should throw the book. I think Max was hard done by on the overtake and the call and all that stuff. So at that stage, I'm sort of in his corner on this one in a way that I'm not usually. But when he did that, like, you know, I really think they should throw the book at people when this happens. It's completely, because what does it, like, red mist happens when you're in racing conditions, right? And you're fighting for corners and inches and all of this sort of stuff. And that's not what this is at all. This is just like a blue flag. This happens to some of the cars 30 times in a race, right? Letting someone pass is not a difficult thing to do. He's not attempting to like overtake him on the next turn. Like there is no overtaking spot until if he wanted to do that, he would have done it at the top of the hill on the way into the second DRS zone. Like there's nowhere to overtake on these next three corners. So it's not that. Also, like, he's not like, you know, doing a racing move to try and like get up beside him or anything. It's just pure aggression and violence.
No, it's vintage petulance from Max. And
it is, yeah.
It's one of those things where like as much as you admire a lot about his game, and like there's parts of him that I find like entertaining, this is the shit like that makes him really difficult to like or respect, right? This is the like, man, you're too old for this shit. Like, what are you doing? Especially because Russell, not that it would make that big a difference, but Russell didn't do anything in this scenario. Like, Russell's just the guy next to Max while he's like throwing a fit at his team basically for sticking him on a shitty tire and then telling him he should give a position back that he didn't think he should have to. But like, yeah, like he and Russell have some old bad blood, but nothing happened on the track that was in any way notable between them, right? Like they both went for corner, they touched, Max took the escape road. So it goes. Russell hasn't appealed to the stewards. Nothing has happened. Russell's just there. And it's just like Max lashing out at the target that is nearby.
100%. Yeah.
When he's
angry
like,
at his team.
pissed at his team.
He's angry at his car.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Russell's just there. And yeah, and I think it's like you like this is look, at a certain point I feel like we're adjudicating people's morality or who they are as people, and ultimately I guess that doesn't matter when it comes to sport or anything, but I think it is like a shame because like this 2020 and 2019 and before, like Max has had these moments and I think I liked the fact that at least when he started winning championships it looked like he chilled out, but I guess maybe he's still that guy, and when he's not winning he's not able to deal with it, or when everything's not going his way, he's not able to deal with it. And when push comes to shove in these moments, he kind of shows that he's still a jerk. Like he's still just like not able, like he is Jos Verstappen's son in these situations.
It's the Benicio del Toro smoking monologue from Sin City. When it comes to Max, like when the chips are down, like this is who you are. Like you're gonna go back to this, and at the same time, like this is like it comes with the territory. I think it's frequently been the problem with the sport not dealing with the petulant child in its midst, and letting Red Bull work the refs this long and sort of like extending this like benefit of the doubt past the point of reason. And arguably they're doing it to this even now, where you have sort of a clear, like, he hit someone else with a car because he was pissy. They can't bring themselves to, like, bring the hammer down. And, it takes, like, there's some headlines today that, like, he finally showed contrition for what happened. No, he apologized to his team for what happened. But, like, at no point, that was, like, after days of him being like, expect me to give a shit?
This is what really bugs me about the Ben Sulayem situation and the cursing, because, ostensibly that is an ethics play. Like, we want our drivers to be,
Right.
good people, good role models.
Role models.
And then you don't do anything for this. I mean, he got penalized, which we'll get to, but like, you're right.
And the FIA's whole deal is road safety and road policy and like
100%.
driving standards.
Yeah.
That's such a good point. Road rage, one of the worst things you can do behind the wheel of a car.
Yeah.
And it's worth mentioning for anyone who's like new to F1, we're not saying that this particular incident was like that dangerous. Like, they're at relatively low speeds. He hits them tire to tire, probably intentionally, so they don't actually damage each other. But it's not about
It ain't
that.
Tony Stewart putting that guy under the wheels and that sprint racing killing him.
Right. It's exactly. So we're not saying it's that. We're not saying that he but it's, you have to have a zero tolerance policy to this stuff. Like, it's just, it's at least that's my read on it. And he should get at least a race ban for this. Like, I don't, as I thought Vettel should have for the one on Hamilton, which was even more, tame because it was during a safety car. You know what I mean? Like, they were driving at 20 miles an hour less, right? But I just think we can't be, like you said, we can't be expected to take all of this stuff so seriously and adjudicate on how dangerous, overtaking around cops is, right? When Max gets crashed out there, and then when somebody intentionally attacks somebody else with their car, not think that that's like super important to rule out.
And also, like, how many decisions, like, how many incidents has he been involved with where it's like, well, surely he didn't mean to cause the collision. It was just hard racing, but it was fair. Like, moments like this are like, well, with Max, though, actually, he's really okay with a takeout move. That other drivers will try to avoid a collision, and Max fundamentally won't. And from the first, that sort of has been a signature. If you don't want to crash, you better give me what I want. And now here, it's not even a wheel racing incident. Now it's just, I am being denied what I want, so you're getting the chrome horn.
It's also just like stupid, like it's like dumb idiot brain decision making, because he's basically, for no reason at all, like, if he wanted to just write out the penalty, he could have done it, but now he is giving the place back and then giving himself a penalty. He knows he's going to get a 10-second at the very least, so he's putting himself at the
and he
at the
didn't
back
even
of the field.
take him out.
Yeah, if you're
like,
if you're gonna do it, if you're gonna do it.
If you're gonna do the cheap shot, like,
it's so
you're
weird.
the greatest driver in the world. You couldn't break his axle.
So, like, yeah, he ends up getting a 10-second penalty and it was a 2 or 3 penalty points on his license. I think it might have been 3.
It was 3.
And
if he
he's
gets
one away
point
from a
before
race
the end
ban.
of June, he's got the race ban.
Yeah. He's got 1 away from a race ban, and then I think he gets, because it's every 12 months, you need to have the 12 points within a 12-month sort of moving target. So one of his penalty points that he got last year will go in June, but then he's still pretty close. I think he's still 3 points away until October. So he's got to be a good boy. Anyway, the at this stage the race is almost over. It's the penultimate lap. Hulkenberg, though, just on a tear. He's just like, I am not finished. I'm not finished crawling my way up the order here. He's
the
definitely
green mist of Hulkenberg.
The green mist, and also the new softs of Hulkenberg, because I believe Hamilton's on a pair of used that he used for quali at one stage, so they're a little bit more worn, or at least that's what modest Hulkenberg was saying post race. But he managed to get him overtake him on turn 1 to get up into 6th position over Hamilton in 7th, and of course with Max being shuffled down the field, down the order, that would mean that Hulkenberg would actually end up in 5th position, which is pretty fantastic.
Amazing.
For
the Silver Fox.
Car. What a dude. We should wait till we get to the...
What do you think those little shits from the Microsoft store are doing right now? Probably not placing 5th in a Grand Prix.
He's we'll get to it in the driver standings. He's doing all right this year. He's getting
Yeah,
points.
this really shuffled the pack.
Yeah.
Looks like one. Sorry.
That's how it ends, though. So that's how it ends, though. Oscar Piastri manages to safety car and all. He manages to still finish about 2.5 seconds ahead of Norris, which is pretty great. Leclerc coming in third, and Russell coming in fourth.
Looks like there's also a last lap pass about the same time of Alonso and Lawson as well.
Oh yes, which knocked Lawson out of the points as well.
It did, yes.
He did not.
Would you like me to
manage-
run down the race result here?
Yeah, go for it. Thanks,
All
Drew.
right, yes. Oscar Piastri comes home to win. Lando Norris retains his second place. And then Charles Leclerc, after that... Verstappen finished on track in fifth. Leclerc third. He made up 4 spots. George Russell retains his fourth place from the start. And then, as you said, Denny, with that Max Verstappen penalty, Nico Hülkenberg, 5th place, having made up 10 spots from his grid position. Lewis Hamilton losing 1 to finish 6th. Isaac Hadjar finishes at a +2 in 7th place. Pierre Gasly retains 8th. Fernando Alonso makes up a spot to 9th. And then Max Verstappen in 10th with his penalty. That's a loss of 7 positions from his starting grid. Liam Lawson makes up 2 to finish 11th, but it's not enough to get some points. Gabriel Bortoleto retains 12th. Yuki Tsunoda makes up 6 to finish 13th. Carlos Sainz up 3 to 14th. Colapinto up 3 to 15th. Ocon retains 16th. Oliver Behrman loses 3 to finish 17th. And then we've got the DNFs of Kimi Antonelli and Alex Albon. In the Drivers' Championship, Oscar Piastri retains his lead of 186 points, 10 over Lando Norris in second, himself 39 points ahead of Verstappen in third, who's 26 points ahead of Russell in fourth, 17 points ahead of Leclerc in fifth, 23 points ahead of Hamilton in sixth, who is also 23 points ahead of Kimi Antonelli in seventh, who's only 6 points ahead of Alex Albon in eighth. Isaac Hadjar moves up a spot in the championship to 9th place with his finish. He's 21 points back from Albon and only 1 point ahead of Ocon, who loses a spot and is now in 10th. But the biggest jump, Nico Hülkenberg with his 5th place finish is now in 11th place for a 4-place jump. He's only 4 points back from Ocon. Lance Stroll loses a spot, having not taken part in the Spanish Grand Prix. He's now in 12th place with 14 points, two back from Hülkenberg. 2 back from Stroll is Sainz in 13th. Gasly's in 14th, 1 point back, but 1 point ahead of Tsunoda, who loses 2 spots and is now in 15th place. Behrman is 4 points back from Tsunoda in 16th. Lawson is 2 points back in 17th, 2 points ahead of Alonso, who's now on the board.
Nice.
Yeah, he's in 18th place. Gabriel Bortoleto is in 19th. He's got 0 points, along with Jack Doohan and Franco Colapinto. We had some movements in the constructors' standings as well. Not for McLaren, though. They're still on top with 362 points, 197 ahead of Ferrari, who is now in second place, having jumped 2 spots. They are now 6 points ahead of Mercedes, who's in third, and Mercedes is 15 points ahead of Red Bull in fourth. That stings, Red Bull, with this Verstappen penalty. A 5th down to 10th is a swing of, what is that? 9 points.
Right.
So,
And I also think, just to rub salt in the wounds on this one, we were talking a couple of months ago about Spain. Spain was going to be the big change in the championship because those flexi wings, that Spain was when all that stuff was going to get changed, and it didn't make a difference. McLaren front row lockout. Lewis said the handling is a little bit trickier, but it basically functionally makes a difference. He actually came out complaining about how much of a waste of money the whole thing was, because everyone had to develop new wings. But if that was the thing that was going to pull back, rein in McLaren and Ferrari and help Red Bull close that gap, it did not happen. So I think their outlook for the season is looking much, much dimmer than it was about 7 days ago.
You mean Ferraris?
No, Red Bulls.
Red Bulls. Okay.
Yeah, I think they were hoping and banking that all that stuff was going to close the gap.
Oh, yeah. Right.
And it really didn't.
Yeah, well, as I said, that swing of 9 points now puts them in fourth because they're only 6 points back from Mercedes. In fifth is Williams, 90 points back from Red Bull, so that's a healthy gap. They are 26 points ahead of Racing Bulls, who have moved up a spot into sixth. They are only 2 points ahead of Haas in seventh. Kick Sauber Ferrari, they're in eighth now, moving up
Tied.
2 positions. They're tied on points with Aston Martin. And then Alpine in the rear with 5 points back from.
Everyone's scoring though. Like last with 11,
Yeah.
this far into the isn't terrible. It's a good mix there, you know.
Very true.
I mean, it's terrible to be last, but you know.
In the fantasy standings,
Ooh,
if you'd like
most
to join the
important
standings
ones.
yourself, you can do so using the link in our show notes. From the Spanish Grand Prix, we have a 3-way tie for third. 4-way tie between the Phoenix with 3 X's. Half bear, half man.
Wow.
Calamari Damasi.
Oh my God, that's brilliant. I love it. That's great.
And, this is good. /kick Sauber. Like the
Nice.
forward slash,
Wow.
like you're
Yep.
banning someone from your server. Yeah, that's good.
Love it.
In second place, Tastes Like Chicken. And in first, Race Steward Bookies. Seems like a conflict of interest. But overall, in third, Stop What You're Doing. In second, F1 banned my team name. And, in first place, Ukulele.
Oh, that's good. Man.
Parentheses, Endor 8000.
All these video game ones are solid.
Yeah. Well, I think a ukulele is not only a video game reference. Danny, your video game brain is showing.
Yeah, absolutely. An ocarina, that's only from Zelda, right?
That's right. Yep. All right, that is it for the race recap. Let's take it to the news, Rob.
News.
There ain't much. So we already talked about Stroll's ambiguous injury. The other thing that I suppose is newsworthy this week is it looks like our long national nightmare of Mohammed Ben Sulayem sort of haunting F1 grid celebrations. We might not be delivered from that anytime soon, maybe never. So last week before the Spanish Grand Prix, there was a letter of support from 40 auto clubs. So think local regional chapters of AAA. That's sort of who votes for the FIA president. But 37 organizations declared support for Ben Sulayem, implicitly denying that support for Carlos Sainz Sr. And it's hard to know. Some of the early coverage made it sound like this election might already be over. Like he might have already successfully shored up enough support. Like if this many clubs are on his side, and he's going to be able to sort of get support from some other bases of power, then you sort of got the election night. Like Carlos Sainz's path to 270 is getting really narrow. But I don't know. Like, I don't know enough about these elections. Like, I don't know the letter of support. Like the clubs can't endorse 2 candidates, so presumably that is a sign that they will not be going for Sainz. But I don't know if the letter actually obliges them to stick with him, or if it's a thing where you could have defections at the last minute. But either way, it does sort of signal that he does have real support in the rank and file of the club organization. One of the heads of the clubs is Bernie Ecclestone's wife there, and the letter of support makes a point that he's been terrific for shoring up the finances of the FIA, which I had not realized they were pretty bad apparently. Like what Autosport has to say about that is like the FIA has, like, going back decades, kind of been in a bad financial position, in part because they've never really, like, effectively monetized their relationship in F1. And so, like, Soliam has made that a priority and has made inroads on dealing with, like, the chronic deficits the FIA runs. But the rest of the letters, the letter of support saying that, like, he's delivered on his, all his promises as president of the FIA, that's just kind of not true. A lot of what he's done was not talked about. It's, it's very much like a Project 2025 type of bait and switch in some ways, where it's like, well, this is always what you said you were going to do. But nobody really had signed up for him revamping the FIA to become sort of a rubber stamp body around him. So, yeah, I hope that this is not like a kiss of death for the Sainz bid, because I think we're heartily sick of this dude. But it certainly looks like he might have the wherewithal to, even as embarrassing, and boy, what does that say about the member clubs and the FIA in general, that, like, this dude may have the juice. It's like the NYC mayor's race, right? Where it's like, what the fuck is wrong with you people? Like, do you not even see, can you not detect vibes?
37 clubs around the world have all been promised hot tubs if he wins. It's not. Who knew? Who knew that maybe all this whole thing? Look, I've been a fan of football far too long and seen what's happened with FIFA in my lifetime, that I don't trust any of these rich motherfuckers. I'm like, this is just par for the course at this stage. But yeah, God, come on, deliver us, Carlos Sainz Sr. You're the one we need, the hero we deserve.
Yeah, I think it just goes to show that, like, it's the FIA as a governing body of it's not just F1. It's like, it's global motorsport. So they govern, the World Rally Championship, all of the open wheel, feeder series, but, like, stuff you've never heard of, like karting, and just go to their website and look at all the. It's what Indy was before.
Oh,
yeah.
Got it.
So it's one of those things where, like, there are so many other factors and things that the people who vote for this guy care about that we don't see. It's a multifaceted organization, and there are other factors at play. But yeah, I sure hope that 37 votes is not enough. I did want to add a little more color to the Lance Stroll situation. So we don't know yet if he'll be able to attend the next race in 2 weeks' time, the Canadian Grand Prix. But in the background, Felipe Drugovich, Brazilian driver who won the 2022 Formula 2 championship, is scheduled to be racing in the 24 Hours of Le Mans with Cadillac, but has said that if needed, he will fill in for Stroll at the Canadian Grand Prix. So watch this space. You can send us an email if you like. shiftf1podcast@gmail.com or fn.cool/emails. Danny, I know you had pulled a couple here. Do you want to read those?
I hadn't.
Those are old from a vestigial document. Those are questions about some hot racing action in 2023.
Oh, got it.
Yes.
Got it.
See what happens when you put me in charge? It's a vote for me for FIA president. Hot tubs for everyone.
Ooh, sounds great.
I'm getting a hot tub with the new place.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
But Max Verstappen will get banned from the season. Yeah.
All right, well, let's run down the race calendar then for this weekend. That means, Danny, it is time to race around the world.
Let's race around the world. Yeah.
Speaking of the World Rally Championship, they are in the province of Sassari, Italy, for the Rally Italia Sardinia.
So sorry.
We've also got the Isle of Man TT going on this weekend. The conclusion of it. Hold on with dear life.
Hopefully not the conclusion of anyone's life.
My God.
It's such a scary thing. Oh my Lord.
MotoGP.
Stay safe, folks.
MotoGP is in Aragon,
Oh, beautiful.
Spain.
Middle-earth's favorite
Middle-earth
racetrack.
Spain.
Yep, Middle-earth Spain.
We have DTMs at Circuit Zandvoort
Oh, Zandvoort.
in
Oh,
the
Zand.
Netherlands.
The Zand gets everywhere when we're here.
Were ships passing in the night. I was just in
You were?
the Netherlands. Yeah.
Yes. The
Brought back some
Nether
stroopwafels.
regions. Yes.
Wow. Let's see. We've got the Craftsman trucks. They're in Brooklyn, Michigan for the
The lesser-known Brooklyn.
lesser-known Brooklyn at the International Space. I met someone from Manhattan, Kansas this weekend.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, whose mom apparently was visiting New York and booked a real cheap hotel room and then got to the hotel in New York and they were like, this is for the other Manhattan, the other Hilton Manhattan.
No.
Yes.
Oh my God. What? Wow.
Still give her a room, apparently. Okay, yes. The Craftsman Trucks race at the Michigan International Speedway is called the DQS Solutions and Staffing 250 powered by Precision Vehicle Logistics at Michigan.
What?
That is the name of a race.
Is that Dairy Queen Super or something? DQS?
DQS Solutions. Yeah, they're really expanding out into logistics.
Wow, that's a terrible, terrible name.
We've got the Repco Supercars at Wanneroo.
Wanneroo. Wanneroo. Great song. Eurovision, baby. Let's go.
That's right. That's right. The Motocross Grand Prix of Latvia is happening this weekend in
Riga.
In
The one city in Latvia I know.
Zelta Zergs Mototrasa in Rembates Pagasts, Latvia. Almost certainly not how you pronounce that.
Bless you.
The NHRA, the National Hot Rod Association, if you're unfamiliar with that. They're in Bristol, Tennessee for the Super Grip Thunder Valley Nationals.
Wow. Super grip.
Super Grip.
Super grip.
We got NASCAR.
Yeehaw.
Also at Michigan International Speedway for the Firekeepers 400. Firekeepers Casino 400.
I'm not going there. To Firekeepers, I mean.
Okay.
I have a local casino.
Great. Do you really?
Yeah, there's a Grattan one, like
Great.
10 minutes up the road. Sometimes me and Lindsay
I love
go
their
up
potatoes.
there with like $20 and waste $20. We've accidentally come home up 80 and 60. We've been there 3 times in the past 2 years, and the first 2 times we made money and left.
Wow.
Got Starbucks and left. Just go for like a 30-minute date. Yeah,
Great.
it's like a fun time.
Nice.
Do not gamble. Do not gamble, everyone. Do not gamble. Do not gamble.
Do not gamble.
Yeah.
Do not stake.
Don't play with anything you're not willing to lose.
Well, that's what's happening this weekend. Danny, do you want to tell us what happened this day in history?
I do. I forgot to open the book. So let's open the book to... Oh my God, it's June. What is happening?
Yep.
June 4th. In days of yore, hold on to your butts, everyone. The most famous F1 engine of all time made its debut today in 1967 at the Dutch GP at Zandvoort. The Cosworth DFV engine made its F1 bow in the Lotus cars of Graham Hill and Jim Clark. It was an immediate success. Hill qualified on pole, but Clark won the race, and a new era had arrived in the sport. The engine was made available as a customer unit, and suddenly any team could have a fast, powerful, and reliable engine for very little cost. Man, it feels like I'm getting sold it right now. The DFV engine took 155 Grand Prix victories, 12 Drivers' Championships, and was still racing in F1 15 years after its winning debut. Ayrton Senna started from pole position for the United States Grand Prix at Phoenix today in 1989. It was his 34th pole position, beating Jim Clark's record of 33. He eventually notched up 65 before he was killed.
Well,
So we almost got it. The last word in this one
yeah.
was they didn't really have to say that part at the end. They could have just said he eventually got 65
In his career, yeah.
in his career, in his long and happy career.
All right, well, that's the Spanish Grand Prix, everybody. Final thoughts, Danny.
I suspect everyone hopes this story goes away. I suspect the FIA and Formula One do. I suspect Max does. And it's not like anyone's going to gym it up. Like if they were fighting for something, maybe McLaren would care. If Russell just hadn't been the closest person to him and it was actually something that they were, had any sort of legitimate beef around that particular situation, maybe they will, but nobody's going to push it on. And I think it's a real shame. And I don't necessarily think we have to go down the I think, how about this? I think it's very telling that the only time a driver has been disqualified from the World Championship was during the final race, when it didn't matter anyway, when Schumacher crashed into Villeneuve and busted his own car in the process and busted his chance of winning the championship in the process. It seemed almost sort of performative that they decided to strip him of all his points and have him be last in the table that year. And I think the reason why that is because more of a sporting thing that as much as he used his car as a weapon in that instance, it was really the fact that he was doing it on Villeneuve to try and win the championship, I think, was the thing that really irked F1 at the time. And I don't necessarily think that might be a bit OTT, but I think, and I don't know. I don't know if it would change I don't think it is going to make, maybe it'll make him think second before doing it, but this has happened so many times at this stage, and I wish there was more than what's happening here. Or it would have been great. It would have been handy for everyone if that just so happened to be his 12 penalty points for the year, and then they could sort of say, "Look, the system is working." But I don't know. It turned my stomach in a way that makes me feel like I'm not proud of Formula One when things like that happen. I don't like seeing that. That's not why I tune in. I don't want to see violence. Intentional acts of violence like that. So yeah, I'm disappointed in Max, and I'm disappointed in the sport for not getting on top of this. I suspect everyone wants it to go away, but yeah, at least this week it's nice to be able to talk about it and try and vent a little bit. But yeah, we'll see what happens.
Final thoughts, Rob.
If I fucked up my wrist punching a wall because I didn't have a good quality, and I re-injured it because I'd already fucked it up before with a cycling, re-aggravate like a joint injury, like by being a dumbass. I do not care what they would have to shoot me up with. I don't care what kind of brace I would have to race with. I would never cop to it. I would deny till they put me in the box and lower me down. Like, if anyone asks, like, I don't know, I caught it during a spin and the wheel like clipped my wrist, but like, ow, it's a bad bruise, but don't worry about it. Or like, I was saving children from a burning building. I don't know, but like, I would never.
Children. It was, they were particularly heavy children. I put all the weight on one wrist. I shouldn't have done it.
Yeah, it was kind of like just a sort of a what was that little children's toy, like the monkeys that sort of linked together? It was like one of those chains of monkeys, but the children.
Barrel of monkeys.
I would never own to it. I would never own up to it. I would just be like, guys, like, surely you can inject me with more painkiller and cortisone, and we can get through the rest of this calendar with my wrist just swelling up to greater and greater sizes. We can drain it. Leeches, surely.
All right. Well, if you would like to support the show and get access to all of our bonus episodes, the early ad-free version of the podcast, and the official Shift F1 Discord, you can do so over at patreon.com/ShiftF1. Have a good race weekend, everyone. We will see you all next week.
Meow.